welcome everyone to Game 3 of the MSL Code B Grand Finals. As you can tell here from Pride Rock, we are on Accolon Wastes for Game 3 here. So in the top left-hand corner of the map, we have BlueFox as the blue Protoss, and his opponent down here is the pink Protoss, is of course BrofessorX, with the close pylon placement and everything. So once again, this map, I started out looking at Pride Rock. I do think that this looks very much like Pride Rock from The Lion King. I could just see Rafiki on there holding up a young Simba. Just wanted to point that out. But that's actually, this is the pretty much the only difference between Accolon Flats and Accolon Wastes. What this does is you can cut this rock down and it'll make one of these rocks over here, and it will enable it to block off that third base of yours. And also, I'm neglecting to mention the fact that I am not solo casting today. I have my good friend Nibbling here on the line with me, helping me co-cast all of these games. I just want to say thank you very much for doing that with me. Nibbling's been a lot of fun so far. I'm really enjoying it. And why don't you take us away here for the little bit of the early game?
Sure thing. Taking a look at this map, both the players, now having gone through 2 games, kind of have a feel for each other. Nothing super cheesy coming out of each other. On this map, regardless of the fact they have a super narrow ramp that makes securing one base really easy, I think they could both go for second base. You've got destructible rocks protecting you on the one side, and then as you pointed out, you got Pride Rock, which can totally turn into a third base protection. You just have the one big ramp to worry about. But where neither player Zerg, walls aren't super critical. So I'd kind of like to see both of them kind of expand out and get into some higher tech, or at least one of them pull that on the other. For the first time in these 2 matchups, we're seeing one player scout and not the other. So far we've been seeing mirror scouting. So BlueFox has now seen the Gateway and Cybernetics core gone down, so he's probably thinking, 4-gate again. But BrofessorX hasn't seen a thing.
It's true. What is going to come out of BlueFox? So it's an excellent recap there on the series. I also want to point out that the series has been a little bit crazy. It's not just been late-game battles where one player steamrolls the other, which is actually really how a lot of Wings of Liberty games went. When it comes down to it, you wait till you get your money composition, your huge death ball, and then you 1A your way to victory. And if your macro is a little bit better than your opponent, especially in these lower leagues, that can actually just give you a whole bunch of victories right there.
Where you just have more stuff, yeah.
And what we've seen instead is we've seen some really tricky play. We've seen some proxy 4-gates. We've seen War Prism harasses. We've seen drops. We've seen a lot of stuff. We have now finally seen some Heart of the Swarm units. I really liked seeing the Mothership Core. Didn't use it for most of its abilities, but it did exist. And also want to point out we have a 4-gate here from BlueFox and a 4-gate from BrofessorX. And also want to point out the food is so similar. Remember, mirror matchups, man. Getting behind on one thing makes a huge difference. And also, look at the difference in the worker count. I just want to point that out.
Yeah, I was just looking at that. Half again in worker supply, but as a trade-off, BrofessorX has a much larger army, and he's pushing out with it right now, which is, the good thing to do. Kind of poking out. He's got his proxy pylon there for reinforcements as soon as those zealots arrive.
It's true. That's actually going to be a pretty big deal. I just don't know if there's going to be enough economy really behind this. He has not resumed probe production at this point in time, and with the huge amount of chrono boost on there, I wonder if he's going to try to spend it on using those warp gates a little bit more quickly, and trying to spend that bank all in one go, or how that's exactly going to work.
I don't know. He definitely wants to keep the violence away from his base, though, because as we saw last game, BlueFox is definitely better prepared with the Sim City. Take a look at his pylons. The only route is going around the long way. Take it, BrofessorX. We've got 2 of them. And
we actually have a little bit of an engagement here. Here, right in the middle of the natural. Turns out BlueFox left his natural earlier, and BrofessorX started warping in. And so now we're in this awkward position where BrofessorX is in between
that is weird.
BlueFox and his reinforcements and his main base. So the force field here
good call.
should be
Pull
able
back up the
to...
ramp. There it is.
Okay, so excellent control there. He's going to be safe inside for a little bit longer. He doesn't have blink. He doesn't have anything like that. He just goes up against the wall. The Zealot's not able to participate in the fight. I really would have liked to see a micro there instead. And some additional warp-ins here from BrofessorX. Looks like he's trying really hard to break this. There's another... Woo! Okay, not sure I like those force fields. He does have the force fields. Oh, okay. I thought some of those Zealots were, in fact, from his opponent. I almost had an aneurysm for him. The force field here are going to do a good job. I wonder to see if we're going to see another force field. I think he's out of energy, though. The sentries, very high-value targets, need to be microing back away from his opponent, not right into them. Ooh, ouch. Painful. And now, remember last game, BrofessorX could not break his opponent, just he didn't have enough units. He's actually been continuing to warp in here at this, and now look at how different. In last game, this game, BlueFox is actually going for a 4-gate as well, so it's not like... This is pretty close, and it's not like BlueFox has been surprised, and BrofessorX is still able to do a pretty good amount of damage here. So...
You know, honestly, I see BrofessorX keep trying to push up this narrow ramp. I think I'd rather see him camp out, protecting his... protecting the pylon, and keeping him in one base while expanding to 2, maybe even 3 behind. Just kind of bottleneck him up, because that narrow ramp would be perfect for it. Staying at the bottom, keeping them out, super easy. Chasing up it, almost impossible, as we're seeing here.
It's, you know, that's exactly true. It's actually, I saw that recently in a, Mothership Core being focused down. Good call there. But yeah, I saw this recently in a PvP and WCS. I'm trying to remember who it was. I think it was Hero versus Rayong. WCS America round of 8 or round of 4. It was somewhere in there. And what ended up happening was, it was on... I think it was Belshir Vestige or maybe Whirlwinds, and he was able to contain the other player in his base for quite some time, simply because the narrow chokes work both ways, to be completely honest. And as long as those other units there at the bottom are not too far forward, it's really, really hard to push down. So I think, yeah, I think you're totally right. I think BrofessorX probably could have just kept warping in, you know, maybe a sentry, another stalker or so, and then just continued to keep those units at bay until they had the ability to, you know, break their way through a force field and make their way down the ramp. So I think at this point in time...
BlueFox took
yeah, go for it.
Yeah, BlueFox took advantage of that. He destroyed the proxy and immediately set up the natural and is pushing as a counter to keep that natural safe. Without BrofessorX making a response, he could be out macroed here in 5 minutes.
It's true.
BlueFox destroying the destructible rocks, coming up the non-traditional route, which it turns out not needed because the natural's not inhabited, but he didn't know that.
It's true. This is actually the first scouting that he's had here in quite a long time. He knew there wasn't a natural there at the very beginning, but other than that, there wasn't much information that he had. He does go over and check to make sure that there's no base there. And I wonder if he's actually just going to... I think he's going to do exactly what we were just talking about, that we thought BrofessorX perhaps should have thrown at.
And there's his proxy pylon in the 4th. Ooh. You know, far enough back that it can't be sniped if he has to retreat a little bit.
It's true. Might not even know of its existence there for a little while.
It's true. There's 2 of them. There's one in the 4th and one halfway toward the 5th. I missed that.
Yeah. Interesting placement. If you're going to do this, I'd like to get all the Zealots right here in the front. It's something that I like to do with my, you know, I say I have spare APM. This only happens at the early beginning of the game. But you can actually control the units.
What's that?
Yeah. It's actually, TLO has it. He's mentioned that before. He actually played a whole bunch of Wings of Liberty without control groups. He simply just...
That's nuts.
Yeah, he just controlled everything. And so now, you see a little bit of what I was talking about before, trying to get that nice concave on that ramp, and that will really keep BrofessorX in his base for quite a bit longer. Now the unit's kind of going all over the place, but I really like the arrangement previously and how this is allowing him to scout all over the place, making sure that there's none of those proxy pylons that have caused him problems before. I want to point out the probe on the bottom, or on the right side of the map that's moving around. That probe is on patrol from one base to the next, and so is the one on the left side of the map, making sure that there's no ninja expansions. It's an excellent move. I really like to see that.
If you're going to bottleneck, you have to. Yeah. Otherwise, the bottleneck's worthless. He did finally find Professor X's scout when he brought in his own observer.
Yeah,
so the observer got chased away.
Excellent move there. Looks
so
like
Professor
it's not
X
coming
knows.
back.
Oh, it's true. So he knows what's there. It's just trying to figure out how to get around it.
How do you break this type of wall? Particularly with this much scouting information on the sides, although I don't know if Professor X actually knows that. We do see some upgrades going down from BlueFox now, because he's got that second base, and he's actually up by 9 SCVs. He's up by 9 SCVs in a game of PvP. It's quite an amazing feat. Now that there's no mind control. Yeah.
Cool upgrade.
Good study, Hansel. So we do have a whole bunch of queuing on, a huge supply block as well. It looks like all the attention from BlueFox is focused down here in his opponent's, natural, as can be expected. We do have the robotics facility up for both players. We do see the warp prism. That's actually one of the only ways I see out of this position for Professor X is to kind of be all over the place and force that army to retreat somehow. Once again...
And yet... Oh, does he see it? BlueFox did not see the warp prism leaving on the left, so that's good.
He will see it here in just a moment. It flies right over that pylon.
Oh. Ouch.
So
he knows that's there now.
Yeah, he's going to have some way to defend against this. There is a cannon here. He is now warping in stalkers. He's going to be completely safe. And now we're just going to see what else.
I'm surprised. Why didn't he drop on that pylon? It was unprotected. He has 4 zealots in that prism.
I think the main reason is I think he was actually trying to simply surprise his opponent, and now it's going to be almost focused down. If there was blink, that would have been bye-bye. We do have Observer up here from BlueFox in Professor X's main base. And now with that Robotics Bay completed, he is going to be able to produce Colossi. He's producing 2 at a time. He's really trying to force his way down. I think that's a really bad idea. It needs to, if you could capture some of those zealots there, that would be a big win. There's a large number of sentries from BlueFox in this composition. He's now supply blocked again. And it's going to be even more supply blocked now that, ooh, okay, it does go down. Those zealots now paying for themselves. Some cannons going down. Ooh, no, more pylons just going down for BlueFox back in his main, as he's now pretty supply blocked, although I'm surprised we don't have more production out of Professor X at this point in time. He's got a little bit of a bank. He has production facilities, but doesn't have any way to use it. Or at least he's not utilizing it at this point in the game. We also have extended thermal lances coming up. To be able to really engage and force these units away from the bottom of the ramp, he really needs to wait until extended thermal lance is done. He's chrono boosting that. We also see this warp prism here trying to be productive, and one zealot actually does almost all the shield damage of a photon cannon, in case anyone wanted to know, as I did. BlueFox does also have +1 weapons, so he will have an upgrade advantage, and he is working on +1 armor. This is really a function of the fact that he's got an additional base. He has additional income. He now has twice the workers. And, well, I mean, not all of them are active, but let's not worry about things like that. And this soft contain from BlueFox has been here for forever. I mean,
and super effective, obviously. I mean,
yeah, it's true. How exactly do you force your way out? I mean, oh, he's going to try to make his way. Now the Colossi are here. He needs to micro those Colossi. Really interesting force fields. Pretty sure those were BlueFox's, and it looks like he's going to be forced back pretty much immediately. Remember, force fields actually get broken by Colossi. The Colossi, though, forgot to break the one down on the ramp so all of his buddies could walk down. They are now down.
I kind of liked the walking down the cliff. It kind of gave a false concave that you otherwise wouldn't get off the ramp, which was kind of nice. But I think if BlueFox had just stuck it out, he probably could have done a devastating trade there and kept the bottleneck up. You asked about how to get out of it. Honestly, go to air, go warp prism, and he did it for the drop. But would kind of like to see it more heavily used.
It's true, and he's really got no economy right now, and that's what's hurting him. So apparently it takes roughly 20 minutes for you to mine out your main. Just wanted to point that out for everyone. We do have some good zealot harassment here. Finally, the zealot's able to get some decent damage in, taking out I do believe just one worker That's got to be painful.
Oh, he's going to get it.
One pylon.
No,
Yeah, definitely not going to get it. Some other zealot's going to force him to wish that he was going to be a dragoon or an immortal sometime soon, so he can come back and fight again. That's
he literally got. Yeah, he literally got all the shield points off that pylon, but not a single hit point. Poor guy.
That's it's got to be kind of devastating. He's actually BrofessorX is not even long distance mining at this point in time. That's clearly a little bit of a mistake. Although, okay, now they're just waiting. They were waiting for
they're just waiting for that next side to go down.
Is flying in.
That one trip could have. That one trip could have been another couple stalkers, you know.
It's entirely true. P.S. I have this mental picture in my mind of buildings warping in, flying through hyperspace, and the Millennium Falcon. Like, that's the mental picture. So it must be incredible distance, is all that I'm saying. This has got to be incredible distance that they're playing with. This warp prism here could do a lot of damage if it warps in some zealots. Now that he's finally got money, but they're going to need to do a lot, and this army's already there. Good reaction time from BrofessorX. If this warp prism goes down, okay, it just barely goes down.
Oh, dang.
I was going to say, that's the only thing that's actually keeping that army of BlueFox back. And although it's not super valuable in terms of resources, I think that's actually going to be kind of signaling the end of the game. Just in case, in the sense that he has no way to pin his opponent back into his base and continue to keep this expansion up and going, and he really needs to take another one to really hope to stay in this, as he's down by a base. He's been down by a base. He's been trading relatively I was going to say cost efficiently. He pushed the units back cost efficiently, but he's lost so many zealots that he's actually behind in the resources lost, which is not what you want to see when you are the one with the less number of resources.
Yeah, and now he's actually over mining that one base. Was chrono boosting probes out, and he just breached 25. Oh, there we go, breaking off into the gas. There we go. So he's about perfect, but yeah, you're right. He needs to start another one now, and it would actually be pretty easy to defend. Colossi there on the edge to do the reach.
And just shoot down Pride Rock. That's what Pride Rock's there for.
It's true. And then he would find this freaking... And then he could find the pylon in the fourth. I want him to find the pylon in the fourth.
Oh, it's
Not
so
that it's
true.
making a big difference right now, but I see that biting him here soon.
You're right. The reinforcement path, remember, Defender's Advantage is something that is largely nullified once your opponent has a proxy pylon and warp gate. So we're going to see Extended Thermal Lance is just about done from BlueFox, and I think he's going to move out as soon as that finishes, and there he goes. The Colossi count, looking at the Units tab, we have, what do we have? We have 6 Colossi from BrofessorX and only 2 from his opponent, but the army size says it all. I mean, 1,500 additional resources in army will make a big difference. Here goes the expansion from BrofessorX. It's just a little bit later, and now that these rocks aren't down, he's going to have a really hard time defending that. I think he's going to be forced to cancel that here in just a moment.
Yeah, I agree.
The workers, 60 workers to 38. Props to BrofessorX to building more workers this time, and especially for being on one base for such a long time. You can kind of understand that. It's a really tough situation to be in, and I'm really interested to see how he's going to be able to try to make his way out. One thing, like you were mentioning before, going air and doing drops is an excellent move. He is now researching Storm. That'll help
the economy. Yeah.
That'll really help him be more cost efficient. Use some of that gas. Unfortunately, he doesn't have a huge bank of gas because he's got so many Colossi. Ooh, that was scary. Colossi going out front instead of the Observer. But the other thing is, I would have really liked to have seen maybe some Dark Templar. They call it the Anytime Dark Shrine for a reason, my friend.
It's true. Ooh, perfect stop there on the scout. He sees the ball of death there. He doesn't see quite how big it is.
Where is that Observer? From
BrofessorX is there.
Well, no, where's BlueFox? I was wondering. We do have Pride Rock. It is going right underneath that Observer.
Yeah.
Was it sniped immediately?
Ouch.
Okay, this Nexus
it
is going to be force field's there.
Save it.
Colossi able to run right over that. Nice. Attack! He needs to press attack! Press attack! Press A! Press A! Oh, now the Colossi are right in the front, and they're in the choke. This is going to go terribly for BrofessorX. Although his opponent not choosing to engage. That could have
which he could have. He could have pushed that.
a whole bunch of hallucinated colossi. That's going to be a big deal. Some storms going down, but blinking out from underneath the storms. The colossi here,
colossi by themselves,
they are vaporized. Colossi do so much damage, but unless they have anything close to them to keep them alive, they go down very quickly.
Oh, Hero Colossi. He has, what, 4 hit points. Woot! There's a piece of duct tape holding each of those legs on.
Yeah, which are already spindly to begin with, so very fragile hips. I'd like to point out his knees, not as bad. It's his hips that I'd be worried out. Good idea here on the hallucinations. I actually feel like that was very instrumental in that attack. And also, the thing here is I think it was actually just a bad choice of engagement for BrofessorX. He did have a larger colossi count, but to make that work, he really needed to fight right here in the shadow of Pride Rock. And when he chased him through, he got the receiving end of what he was hoping to do to his opponent instead, and I think that really ended up hurting him.
For sure. He needs to learn that lesson right now. I mean, look, it's a third of the way down. Why don't we knock it over right now?
It's true.
Because we're still looking at an unprotected, and now it has probes on it. So it'll go worse unless we get it over. We need to knock it over now. Maybe it's possible that playing Wings of Liberty, they're not familiar with how that works. I just can't imagine leaving that up right now.
Ooh. I don't know if you see what I see in the front of BlueFox's
He scouted.
Main. No. We see a fleet beacon going down, which, like I was saying, you don't usually see Tempests until late in the game, until at least 3 bases. And now his BlueFox is up to 4 bases. And I would not be surprised at all to see a few Tempests come out. He's got the Stargates. Nothing else has been in production from those Stargates.
Oh boy.
And the big thing about Tempest is they have range of 15. Ooh, a Zealot counterattack down here in the natural. Oh, that could have been completely defended.
Ooh, charge.
Ooh, those are going to be a lot of dead Zealots.
Yeah.
The Colossi here are going to be able to clean that up here pretty quick. Look at the DPS of those Colossi altogether. And they're all streaming in one at a time, which is actually the best deal. Although I think what is happening is BlueFox is wanting to... he actually just sacrificed all of them for Ire. He did not hope to get very much done with this attack. He's freeing up supply to build all of those Tempests. That's exactly. He was maxed.
And he got to deny a little mining time and almost got the Nexus.
You know, it's actually really true. Like, charge lots are not units to be underestimated. But yeah, the big deal here is going to be that the Tempests are now going to be able to come out. The contain that BlueFox has has not really been broken. He's not, right outside of one of the bases, but he still has a pretty rough contain on this side of the map. He's been continuing to scout with these workers on the left and right hand sides, making sure that there's no hidden expansions that are going to kill him. And now that he's got...
Very good map control.
Yeah, excellent map control, keeping him back. And once these Tempests are out, they have range of 15, and they do... so they have an attack. It's called Kinetic Overload. They do 80 damage versus Massive, and they have a range of 15, and it targets air units. For those that don't know, Colossi are considered air units, and they're considered massive. So they will be doing super extra huge damage, 80 damage per shot from a range that the Colossi can't hope to avoid because they're outranged by the full range of a Stalker or an Immortal. So a huge Colossi count, but this is exactly what the Tempest was created for. Here we see them coming up.
Oh, there we go. We do get the proxy pylon. BrofessorX taking his 4th, but left the proxy pylon until he'd already gotten 2 pylons up himself. But it is finally gone, and he's taking out the last one, so that should actually wrap up the proxy pylon.
Yeah, but here the Zealots engaging without the rest of the army, and those gateway units were the only things that were going to keep those Colossi around for any longer. So a little bit, I agree with getting rid of the proxy pylons, and don't walk out, walking right into the range of the Tempests.
Ouch.
Good storms, excellent storms actually, doing a lot of damage. The Colossi doing lots of damage as well, but the real story here is that the Tempests are able to completely decimate the Colossi. I think without the Tempest, that would have been very one-sided in favor of BrofessorX, to be completely honest. There's excellent storms,
that was
good
really
control. The Colossi of his force decimated the primarily Stalker Sentry force of BlueFox, but instead the Tempest taking out those Colossi almost immediately, and it looks like this is going to be kind of the beginning of the end. We have this brave Colossi defending his base. With no... We had no mothership core, we have no photon overcharge, and we have an offensive GG. But looks like, I mean that in both ways, actually, offensive and offensive. It looks like BrofessorX is going to throw down the GG after his opponent, but it was pretty clear how this one was going to go. It looks like both of these players really enjoyed playing against each other. Remember, this tournament is not about winning anything like, useful, like money. It's instead about bragging rights and street cred. And it looks like BlueFox here is really... I think he really deserves this game. He held a pretty aggressive attack at his main early on in the game. He broke through and then put a really nice soft contain on his opponent for basically forever, and then made a really smart decision to continue teching and getting these really important Tempests here late game once he saw the Colossi count. And although good play was found on both sides, I think this victory really was deserved by BlueFox. So congratulations, BlueFox. I'm clapping very quietly so not to disturb the neighbors. And we wish good luck to you in Season 2, whenever that may happen. And congratulations to BrofessorX as well. You made it to the finals. You had a good run. And really, I don't think you were that far behind in terms of gameplay. I just think these last 2 games, you sacrificed a little bit of your economy to do a really aggressive 4-gate that didn't quite work out. And you never quite recovered, although you made games out of both of them.
Well, it's true, and looking at this one, he did some good counter response. Like you said, without the Tempest, this would have been a completely different game. It's just, with that soft contain and with the superior map control, there was no breaks coming BrofessorX's way.
It's true. So an excellent way to make good games out of things that some might be considered unwinnable a little bit from the start, looking at the worker count and the units lost. But excellent play, and thank you very much, Nibbling, for joining me on these casts. I've quite enjoyed it, and hopefully we get the chance to do this again here.
My pleasure.
So thank you, everyone. Go ahead
sure.
if you like these games, give them thumbs up, share them, show them off to people. I'd really like to have at least 10 views per video. I feel a little bit pathetic. But that's not the real point here. The real point is that we are gamers that just want to have fun. So thanks again, everyone, and we'll be bringing more games to you here in a little while.